All right, guys, what is going on? As always, it is podcast time. Today, it is podcast time a little later than normal. We've been busy with the giveaway, with a bunch of other things that we're doing this weekend. So we're getting at it a little bit late, but as promised, it is between Monday and Friday, so we are doing a podcast. Today, guys, we're talking about the energy systems. We're talking about a common question that I get when asked about the energy systems, which is how do I train them all within the same week or all within the same session or all within the same program? So we're going to be getting into some good details with that. If you are on the Instagram live stream now, again, if you're American and it's Thanksgiving time, first off, happy Thanksgiving. And obviously, do not stick around if you're sitting with family or anything like that. Any of the questions you've got can always still get answered. But if you are free, if you are not doing anything, make sure you stick around because we're going to be doing some Q&A at the end. But guys, let's get into it. How to train the energy systems. And we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are talking about how to train all the energy systems within one program or within 1 week or within one session. Now, the reason I'm talking about this, the reason we're getting into this today is because this is a question I get a lot. You know, if you followed my social media for any period of time, you see a lot of sessions on the different energy systems, you know, how to properly train your aerobic system, your anaerobic lactic system, your anaerobic alactic system. And one of the most common questions I get when I post circuits, sessions, information, whatever it might be, is how many times a week should I train each system? Or how do I train each system within the same week? Or how do I balance training all the systems together? Can I do all the systems in the same day? Like different ways of understanding the balance or the structure of how to train these systems. So I thought, why not? Let's do a podcast about it. So the biggest thing that I always come back to when people ask me this question is the quote, if you try to master everything, you master nothing. Now, I don't know if that was the exact wording of the original quote, but that's the wording that I've used and it's worked well. So if you try to master everything, you master nothing. And the reason that's important is because the same thing as if you're trying to master 10 different skills all at the same time, you're probably not really going to master any of them. You know, if you're working on 3 different combinations in the same day, plus a bunch of footwork drills, plus a bunch of whatever else, you're not going to make crazy amounts of improvement in any of them. What you need to do is you need to focus in one specific area, and that's the way that the energy systems work as well. So when it comes to training these all in 1 week, when it comes to training these all within the same session, when it comes to training these all within the same program, it's not to say that you can't focus on 2 of them within the same program, definitely not within the same session, and we'll get into why. But when it comes to within the same program, it's not that you can't do 2 of them, but the way I talk about it, even with my team, with my coaches, is I should be able to look at the program and tell you what energy system is the prime focus, right? So if you're doing as many of one as you are of the other, it's probably not the most effective way to do it. What we need to focus in on one and then maybe have a little bit of another one put in there. So, excuse me. As an example, when I have athletes in the off season, I focus primarily on the aerobic system. And the reason that I do this is because the aerobic system is your baseline. So when you don't have a fight lined up, focusing on the aerobic system. Your aerobic system is your baseline. Doing this is going to allow you to build a bigger gas tank, is going to allow you to regenerate energy faster while you fight, and in turn is going to build a better base for you to take into your next camp. And I see somebody asking who I'm talking to. I have other cameras set up right over there. Now, as you build up the aerobic system, you build up the size of your gas tank, you build up the ability to regenerate energy more efficiently and quicker. then what that's going to do is when you get into camp and you start doing more of the explosive power work, more of the speed training, more of the repeatability training, that base is built so that gas is being used more efficiently. And if that gas is being used more efficiently, you have more of it for later rounds of your fights, right? So the main focus needs to be the aerobic system when you're in your off season. But I don't want you to sit there and think, okay, only aerobic training, only aerobic training, only aerobic training, because every athlete is different, every situation is different, every person needs different things, right? So a couple of things that would make me not focus primarily on the aerobic system during an off season is, number one, an extended off season. If an athlete of mine has 8 months between fights, we're going to be doing some anaerobic training within those 8 months. We're probably going to be doing a couple of peaking programs as if they had a fight, even though they don't, because we want to train the body through that explosive power work, the repeatability work, all that stuff that we do within the training camp. Another reason would be depending on the athlete, right? If we have an athlete who has a great gas tank, like can go all day, but isn't explosive and isn't powerful and doesn't have that real knockout ability, then we would do a little bit more of the anaerobic work, right? Because that's where they need more focus. So the primary focus is still going to be the aerobic system, because without building the size of your gas tank, really you have nothing. But depending on the person and depending on their needs, we're going to switch up exactly how much of which one we're doing. So the main thing that I want you guys to get out of this is that the key to training the energy systems is balance. Just like the key to strength and conditioning is balance. If I try to put my athlete through a brutal workout 6 days a week on top of all the MMA work that they're doing, or boxing or kickboxing or whatever sport it is, they're not going to make it to their competition because they're going to be too burnt out, right? So if I try to, go at 110% with everything we're doing all the time, and we don't ever let the athlete recover, they're going to be burnt out. And it's the same thing with the energy system training. It's balance. If you're focused in only on one area, I've just got to, go for as long as possible, as long as possible, as long as possible. You're going to improve in that area, but everything else is going to be shit, and you're going to burn yourself out. So the main thing is understand the balance, understand what each system does, and understand how they work together. So the aerobic system is your body's energy generator, your body's ability to reproduce energy while you compete, while you move, while you work. And the better trained that is, the more efficiently your body generates energy while you fight. Now, the reason that's important is because obviously if you use a bunch of energy, throwing a hard combination, shooting in for a takedown, whatever it might be, you need to be able to rebuild that energy without just sitting around and doing nothing. Because if you sit around and do nothing, something bad's going to happen to you. Now, we want to build that primarily in the off season for one very important reason. The aerobic system will last the longest before it starts fading off. So if you go a little while without training it, the quality of your aerobic system is going to hold on for longer. So you don't need to be doing as much with it as you get closer and closer and closer to the fight, because it should already be built. So that's why it's the primary focus of the off season. Now, on top of that as well, the thing you've got to understand is a lot of your fight training is aerobic work. You're going for long periods of time, you're drilling, you're doing all of these things. That is still taxing your aerobic system. So you're building it within your fight training. We want to continue to build it outside of the fight training, and then primarily focus in as you get closer and closer to the fight on the anaerobic systems. Now, the anaerobic systems, this is where it gets fun, personally, because longer duration, lower intensity is kind of dull, and it can be very dull. But this is where it gets fun. As you get closer to the fight, let's say 8 weeks out, the primary focus needs to be the anaerobic lactic system. I'm going to say that one more time, the anaerobic lactic system. Now, this system functions for about a minute of max intensity effort or very high intensity effort before it starts to fade off. And the function of this system is to delay the onset of fatigue. You know that feeling you get in the muscles when you've been working for a long time and the muscles just don't feel like they're firing at the same speed that they used to? That is muscle fatigue, and that's what the anaerobic lactic system is going to start to prevent. So as you get closer to the fight, 8 to 4 weeks out, that's going to be the primary focus of your training. And the reason is, now that we have the size of the gas tank built, we need to focus in on building the efficiency, so being able to delay the onset of muscle fatigue, excuse me, so that the last few weeks can be focused purely on your ability to be explosive and your ability to repeat explosive efforts. Now, that is your anaerobic alactic system. As we get into the last few weeks, that's where this is going to be your prime focus. This is very, very short duration, 10 to 15 seconds of work, followed by complete rest for 10 to 12 rounds. And this is any exercise that you can maintain 100% intensity with. Now, the reason this is the focus right at the end of the camp is because, guys, we got to come back to the true definition of conditioning. And the true definition of conditioning is an athlete's ability to match the energy demands of their sport. So all of these coaches telling you you've got to go for 15-kilometer runs every fucking day, like, you just don't. Because a 15-kilometer, 15-mile run, whatever it is, that's taking you super long time, and you're probably going at a relatively slow pace or not anywhere close to the pace that you're fighting at, is not going to be the same energy demands on the body. Will it make you tired? Yes. Is it going to affect you the same way as being explosive, throwing punches, kicks, takedowns, everything that you're doing within the fight? Absolutely not. So within those last few weeks, building in these explosive power sessions, 15 seconds of work, minute of rest to make sure that you're at 100% with every effort, is going to help build upon the base that you've built already, that ability to go longer at a steadier pace, and build your ability to be explosive and recover from those explosive efforts the whole time you fight. And that is how you actually match the energy demands of the sport that you're competing in. Now, again, I want to really reinforce this as we wrap it up. There is no possible way for me to sit here and say to the masses, this is the exact sequence, these are the exact, sets and reps and everything that all of you need, because you're all different people. You all have different needs. You're all going to do things a little bit differently. But this is a good place to start. Understand that, yes, hard work is massively important, but it's not everything. You've got to balance how you're training and understand the intention behind what you're doing and how that leads into the true definition of conditioning, an athlete's ability to match the energy demands of their sport. So guys, that's the energy systems. That's how you balance them. That's how you train them. I hope you learned something. I hope you got something good out of this. To all my American friends, athletes, followers, whoever else you are, I appreciate all of you. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you are having a fantastic day. And to everybody else, as always, I also appreciate you. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Thursday, and I will catch you on the next episode. I saw a question come in asking what the name of the podcast is. It's called The Elite Development Podcast. The Elite Development